Hello everyone and welcome back to Eastern Healing. Today we are going to be talking about the 5 pillars of traditional Chinese medicine. And therefore, what we're really talking about is how do you take all this stuff that we have been talking about so far and actually apply it to the body? Like, how is all of this theory used in traditional Chinese medicine, right? And before we do that, I really want to hit one introductory kind of foundational point. And that is, it's really important to understand that the whole paradigm, the whole view of the role of traditional Chinese medicine is very, very different than what we see the role of Western medicine to be. In the West, and it's different in 2 ways. In the West, until very recently, Western medicine was very reactionary. Like, first a problem happened. Someone broke a bone, someone got an infection, even childbirth would potentially be put in this category, in that something has happened that could potentially kill you. And Western medicine, the whole model has always been on responding to those things that might cause premature death and preventing that premature death from actually happening. And so it's very problem focused and it's very reactionary. Also, the burden of responsibility for creating the wellness or creating the plan that will lead to the healing or solving of this problem rests with the practitioner. So you'll have someone, maybe they go to the doctor, they get tests done, they get prescribed medicine, and they take that medicine as directed every day, but they don't even know what it is, you know? And so the burden of responsibility for creating the plan and holding to it is all on the practitioner, all on the doctor. You know, even in something like not just taking a medication, but also even something like physical therapy, the actual treatment plan is created by the doctor, and the person is just supposed to follow doctor's orders and, you know, reach their hand up and down a wall 30 times a day. And they don't necessarily understand why they're doing that. They're just doing it because their doctor said to. And the responsibility for the knowledge and the creation of these plans rests with the doctor, with the practitioner. Those 2 things are very different in Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine, first of all, is seen as being preventative. So remember back in when we were talking about history, how when the yin-yang model and the 5 elements model developed thousands of years ago, it was a real shift in the culture from seeing illness as being like the work of evil spirits, where the ill or injured person would have a shaman do a ceremony over them, basically to get rid of the evil spirits, and shifting that to the spectrum of wellness and illness is something you can affect with the choices of your everyday life. Right? So it's seen as preventative. And it has all these stories, so many stories about like diverting a stream by diverting a large river by going to where it first bubbles out of the ground, or curing something when only the barest first symptoms arise and not waiting until it's like a big major problem, right? So TCM is first of all seen to be preventative. These days, things like diet, exercise, stress reduction, these lifestyle choices that doctors are now starting to have in their arsenal as part of like the standard lifestyle things that you need to live a healthy life, that's more where traditional Chinese medicine lives. Furthermore, the practitioner is like a helpful guide, but the person who bears responsibility for the actual wellness or illness is themselves. So They see the practitioner more in the way that we see a personal trainer or like a life coach or a wellness coach, where this person is here to help you and they know more than you know, but their role is as the occasional guide, the occasional helper, and the actual burden of responsibility lies with us in our daily choices, utilizing these principles. And so where the roots of Western medicine are reactionary and problem focused, the roots of TCM are more preventative and lifestyle focused. And where the burden of responsibility in creating those treatment plans and applying them is ultimately with the practitioner, the burden of responsibility in TCM is with the individual. So this is really like, I want you to see this like a wellness practice, not see it in the same way that we see Western medicine and things today. It is not intended to fill that role. So there you go. So let's dive in and talk about the pillars of Chinese medicine. There are 5. The first pillar is acupuncture. You're probably familiar with it. It's one of the most famous pillars of traditional Chinese medicine. Acupuncture is where you take a very thin, fine needle. It's so fine, you can barely even feel it going in. And that needle is inserted into an acupoint. So the acupoints, acupressure, acupuncture, the acupoints of the body are depicted in drawings as being like dots along a person's skin, but they are not actually on the skin. They're deep in the body within your tissues. So the needle is inserted into the body to actually get down into the point. Acupuncture is seen as like the big guns of traditional Chinese medicine because it's diving into your body to stimulate your meridian points themselves, right? So that's acupuncture. Within that same pillar is acupressure. It's the same thing. And the person will apply that in accordance with what they see in the individual, right? So remember, we're strengthening yin, strengthening yang, removing excess, building up qi, helping the qi to flow. And so this person might put that needle in quickly or slowly, might leave it in a long time, might take it out after a short time, might like manipulate the needle while it's in there. And that would all be in accordance to what they're trying to do with that person's qi. I want to take a brief note here and say that acupuncture is not equivalent to dry needling. Dry needling is something that we now have in our society because of acupuncture, and it does use acupuncture needles. But the point of dry needling is to manipulate the fibers of your tissue and like break up scar tissue by spinning that needle. That's something acupuncture does as well, but acupuncture, the focus is on stimulating your pressure, your acupoints. Acupuncture stimulates points, stimulates qi and meridians. Dry needling manipulates physical fibers in our body. So they look similar from the outside, but they are not the same thing. So that's acupuncture. Pillar 2 is herbalism. And the thing I really want you to remember is that TCM herbalism is based on the same principles that we have been learning in class. When it was developed, it did not have microscopes, okay? So they would look at someone who, okay, so like say, when you eat something spicy, you sweat, right? Your mouth feels hot and you sweat. So they would say that spicy things like ginger are warming to your qi. Your whole body, like maybe you get flushed depending on how much you react to spicy food, but your whole body doesn't tend to become warmer. It's that your system is behaving as though you're warm. So obviously, in their mind, in TCM perspective, spicy food warms the qi. So now you take someone who has allergies, right? They have a sniffly, runny nose. When you go out in cold weather, you get a sniffly, runny nose. So from a TCM perspective, having a cold, like having a cold or having allergies, is a cold pattern in the body. Your chi is behaving as though you are cold. So you take something like ginger or a spicy herb and you apply it to those allergies and that like the virus, the cold, and it warms the chi. So the herbalism is not based on the metabolic physiological properties of these substances. It's based on what's going on with their chi, because you're taking, just like you take food chi and bring it into your body, you're taking the chi of that herb and it's having an effect on your chi. That is the basis for herbalism, okay? Obviously, as they go through time applying herbs to people, they will find that some of these substances have specific properties as well. Some plants are antibacterial, they are antifungal. And so those things will be discovered as they go along, you know. In today's world, when you look at Chinese herbalism and herbal blends, the thing to remember is that the primary focus is the qi itself. Yes, some things might be in there that have been included due to their physiological, like physical, metabolic effect, but primarily we're talking about qi. So it's that whole, and we're talking preventative. So the TCM, the doctor of TCM is going to say, okay, take this ginger, you drink a ginger tea every day. 3 times a day, drink ginger tea. And that's to prevent you, like, or during the cold months, drink ginger tea. And it's meant to prevent you from having those cold qi responses in your body. It's all about the qi and it's all about prevention. So there. All right, so pillar number 3 is exercise. Now the exercise they would be talking about would be Qigong. Qigong is a set of specific, simple movements that are typically repetitive, and they are based on the principles of the Zongfu organ system. So maybe it's a movement that stretches or manipulates a particular meridian, but most often it is intended to affect the organ itself. And it does that by utilizing those same associations that we talk about, like liver, the associated flavor is sour and the associated movement is walking. You know, for the spleen, the associated flavor is sweet and the associated action is sitting, right? So all of these things, and it would be beyond the scope of this class to talk about why these associations are in place, but just like those are the associations, and we're just going to take that and go with it. So Qigong movements are simple movements that use like the concept of standing, the concept of like the concept of walking that affects the liver and uses a movement, like maybe a twisting movement that mimics the twisting that you do when you walk, to stimulate that organ. Similar to how we see exercise, like some exercise is good for you and stimulation is good for you, but you can overdo it. So if you have a lifestyle where you stand all day, that standing is associated with the kidneys. So a Qigong practitioner is probably not going to give you a lot of standing still based forms. They're probably going to do other things to give that kidney qi a break while you strengthen other organs, right? So exercise, in particular Qigong. Tai Chi would also kind of be in this category. Tai Chi is a descendant of Kung Fu more. But I will link some bonus Tai Chi videos and Qigong videos into this week's unit in your class shell, just so you can take a look at that. Pillar 4 is massage. Yes, sirree. Good old-fashioned massage therapy is its very own pillar of traditional Chinese medicine. Historically, this would have been Tui Na, and maybe later on Ama. Today, what you find most is shiatsu, which is actually Japanese. And we're going to have a whole week in a bit here, where we talk about Tuina, Ama, and Shiatsu and kind of compare and contrast them and look at their hallmarks so that you can decide as body workers if those are things that you want to pursue. So I'll leave it at that for now because we're going to swing back around to the body work. And then pillar 5 historically would be moxibustion. Moxibustion is a system that uses the herb mugwort, and you dry it and prepare it, and it kind of ends up as like this mush stuff usually. You can prepare it differently to be just the leaves, but generally it's like this mushy stuff. And you burn the mugwort on or near a meridian point. And the mugwort's chi, with that heat, travels into the point to add fresh chi to your system. And so this is seen as very powerful, and that's why it was given its own pillar of traditional Chinese medicine, because other than eating food, breathing air and drinking fluids, there's nothing else in their system that adds fresh chi in to fill up the tank in your own body. All the other applications will encourage your body to renew itself, but that chi is coming from within your own self, not from anything that the acupuncturist is doing. So what you do is it can be done in a couple of different ways. It can, you can make the mush, you can form the mush into a cone and set it on the point and light it on fire. And generally you don't want it to get down to the point where it's going to burn or scar you, but that is, some people do that. So there's scarring moxa and non-scarring moxa. And there's this whole gung-ho area where the treatments that were developed were a little bit next level. The moxibustion is burning directly on your skin in order to scar you. The gua sha scraping is scraping you and leaving a welt on your skin. The cupping, when they do it, they would prick the skin and then apply the cup so it would draw the blood out of you. So there's a whole next level TCM application land where they are not messing around. They are getting in there. But here in the United States, that's not typically the way it's applied. It's either applied by setting that cone on your skin either directly or with a little thing there, or you can get a moxa stick. And when I studied moxibustion as part of my shiatsu training, we used a moxa stick, which sort of looks like a big cigarette. You can get these big old honkin' ones or ones that's the size of this marker. And then you either swirl it over the point or you pulse it in and out without touching. And what'll happen is the person will feel the heat, but all of a sudden they'll reach a point where the point actually feels hot. And then at that point is full. You've filled up the chi as much as you're gonna, and the point is full, and then the treatment for that point is over. So I think I will find and link, maybe, because I used to have a moxa stick, and I don't know where it went. It kind of disappeared when I moved. So I'm going to see if I can find, just so you can actually see it. Maybe I'll throw in another bonus video of moxibustion into your course shell. And then, so those are the 5 pillars of TCM: acupuncture, herbalism, exercise being qigong, massage traditionally being tuina, nowadays more shiatsu, and moxibustion. We do have one honorable mention though, and that is diet. Back thousands of years ago, whether or not you had food at all was it was a survival thing. Being able to prescribe particular foods was not something that was necessarily going to be realistic. Whereas these days, you can waltz on down to the grocery store and there is literally, it's a warehouse just full of food laying there for you to buy. And so back in the day, diet was not seen as its own pillar of traditional Chinese medicine. If anything, maybe you could make a point for it being part of herbalism because you are going to eat or drink the herbs in a tea. and then you are getting the qi from the herbs, and it's like the same thing with food. And it was seen as very important, obviously, to have food and to have like healthy, like to have an abundance of food, because that was the thing back then, is do you have scarcity of food, or do you actually have enough food to live, right? But these days, moxibustion has migrated in with acupuncture because it's point-specific work, and you need to study the same things to do moxibustion that you would do if you were doing other point-specific work like acupuncture. So moxa, like acupuncture, acupressure, moxibustion, has become like the pillar of Chinese medicine that is point-specific stuff, and then diet has kind of broken off in today's world where we have so much more to choose from to become its own pillar of traditional Chinese medicine. So there you have it. Back in the day, you'd be doing acupuncture, herbalism, exercise, massage, and moxibustion. But these days, you're looking at more like point work, like acupuncture, acupressure, moxibustion, than herbalism, massage, exercise, and diet. So those would be the pillars of TCM, how they were and how they are originally. I'm going to link those bonus videos. I'm going to wrap up this video because it's already 20 minutes, just over 20 minutes. And I will see you next time, and look forward to seeing your reactions in the comments. And what I would love to see in that discussion board is not so much a summary of key points, but like think about, your reaction, your actual personal reaction to some of this stuff, like, oh, herbalism, that's an interesting way of looking at herbalism, or like, oh, massage is a whole pillar of TCM, that's snazzy. Or if you've tried moxibustion, or if you've tried acupuncture, like, get personal with it. So I will see you around, and I am going to end this video now. Thanks, guys.